Welcome, everybody, to the first edition of Fourth and Frames of 2024. I'm your host, Chris Battistel, joined by my co-hosts, Rhett Manuel and Drew Scott. Tonight, we got a special episode for you with a 2024 SuperFlex rookie mock draft, joined by some special guests. Let's get it popping. As Landon said yesterday, 2024, we are in you. And tonight, as I said, very special guests, three gentlemen from the FFRPG pod, Eric, Evan, and Mike, and Fantasy and Frames' very own Mike Haas. Fellas, welcome to Fourth and Frames. Are you ready to get to mocking?
Oh, we're fired up.
I appreciate it, Chris. Always ready to talk about that 24 class.
Thanks for bringing us on.
Yes, of course. And as always, Rhett, Drew, welcome to 2024. Are you guys ready to mock? I know you guys are ready to mock.
Hey, you already know, baby. Let's go. Rhett's just talking into the oblivion. He's so excited.
Rhett's in 2024 with him.
Oh, wow. Is this thing on? All right, yeah, cool. So, yeah, let's have some fun tonight, man. That's all I was saying. Let's go.
Yeah. But, you know, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the big splash news from across the NFL. We got some coach firings. Tennessee Titans let go of Mike Vrabel. Seattle Seahawks let go of Pete Carroll. Washington Commanders let go of Ron Rivera. Of course, we know the Carolina Panthers let go of Frank Reich. The Chargers, Deuce Staley. The Falcons, and I know Drew was ecstatic about this one, let go of Arthur Smith. And the Raiders during the season let go of Josh McDaniels. Evan, as the Tennessee guy, who's the one coach? We were talking about it before a little pre-show. Who's the one coach you're hoping for that lands in Tennessee?
Man, there's so many good coaches out there. It's hard, and you've seen what they've done. You see what Steichen did taking over for that Colts team and how he elevated that offense. It makes you think offensive coach. And just because I've loved Bieniemy for so long and I want to see him get a coaching job, do I think it's reasonable and actually going to happen? No, probably not. But I would love to see Bieniemy there.
Yeah. Offensive top of his list of priorities for sure. So it would be a definite pivot from what they've had from the defensive-minded head coach of Mike Vrabel. Eric, rank your top three coaching positions from the list here of available spots.
Ooh, that's a great question. So I think an available spot, I think number 3 would be the Chargers, because as much as they have Justin Herbert, they're in cap hell. So it's going to be Justin Herbert or bust for a little bit. But I still think Herbert's attractive enough to make that 3. Number 2, I really like the Commanders, because having that 1.02, you can either find a way to trade up with the Bears to get to number 1 to get your guy, or whoever's at number 2 is probably going to be pretty good too. So you can get a good offensive coach in there to really start that up. And number 1, I would have to say is the Falcons. Even though there's a little bit of the ownership issue, I mean, you're already coming in with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. That offense can be ready to go. I mean, if you want to go the route of trading a second for Justin Fields, if you want to trade up and get your quarterback, there's a lot of different routes you could take to have a high-powered offense ready right away. And if I was a coach, I think that's where I would want to go.
Yeah, Atlanta's top of my list too. Anyone else have a different one at the top of theirs?
That's my exact order, 1 to 3. I think he nailed it. And another point for Washington, they also have the most cap space in the league this year too. So number 2 pick and the most cap space to work with, that's pretty attractive.
Nobody's going to talk about Seattle? Really? That's not going to make your top 3?
Yeah,
they would be 4.
It's got to be top 3.
Yeah.
They'd be 4 for me.
Okay.
But your quarterback is poor man's Tyrod Taylor. You really want that? I don't.
I mean, you have a top 10 offensive line. You have a top 10 backfield. You have top 12 wide receivers. I mean, you have weapons to be able to work with from an offensive standpoint. You have defensive weapons as well. So you have a
Yeah, and
team
the
that's ready to be there.
I think one of
49ers,
the
the
things.
Rams.
Yep, that's the point. Is the division you'd be walking into is tough. That's an uphill battle right off the rip. So I think
The
that's what makes
NFC South ain't tough, Drew. Come on, man. Toughest division in the game, baby. That's why all our teams are just 2 games above 500, man, because we're so tough.
I know. Yeah, Chris, Red, y'all almost squeaked it out, man. Yeah,
It was close. It was close. It was close. Mike Haas, we've seen
Hello.
7 openings so far in the season. Who is your pick for next coach to drop?
Oh my gosh. You leave the toughest question for the newbie on here, eh? Well, we all think whether he'll be fired, let go, or mutual or whatever. We'll all wait for Belichick, right? But that would be the easy answer. Probably on here. It'll be interesting to see, but they'll do a mutual parting of ways and do it nicely, is what I'm thinking. And then on the flip side of that, it's set up too well for Vrabel to go there. But if it's set up perfect as it is, that's highly likely that fit will happen seamlessly. But it'll be interesting to see how they do that in the media and do that in New England on how one goes and one comes. But I find that interesting today. The same scenario with Pete then and Seattle. I agree with. I would put Seattle into that one of the top places to be if maybe Pete is on his way out and the new guy gets autonomy. But how are they going to cross paths? So I found that interesting in this offseason, just in the last couple of days, of paths crossing and old players coming and how they'll go about that, and past coaches that are coming back if he comes back to Seattle, the coach that they
it'll be an interesting couple
landscape,
weeks to see how a lot of this unfolds. Yeah. Is
Right.
there and Mike Cash, as the Pittsburgh guy on the show today, how long is Mike Tomlin gonna be coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, man? It's inevitable that he's gonna be there forever, because he's just gonna continue being a 9-8 coach for the rest of 10-8 coach, 10-7 coach for the rest of his career.
So he's going to stay there as long as he wants to. The way that the Rooney set up his contract is that it's a 1-year deal that just gets re-upped every year. They didn't re-up it yet, but they're going to do it probably in February. But until it gets signed, there's going to be all the rumors swirling. Then they're going to sign him for another year. Then we're going to continue to have a middle of the road season unless we finally get a difference maker at quarterback. But just can't wait to see another 9-8 or 10-7 season. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll go 11-6 and then lose in the first round.
Yeah, they could have been 12-5 if they started Mason Rudolph. Who knows?
I know, but we just really needed to make sure Mitch Trubisky got his reps in. That was important for the team's development.
Very, very important. Now, before we hop into the draft, we're going to go around the frames quickly. We'll start with Rhett, Drew. We'll go Mike Haas, Eric Evan, and then Mike Cash. Super Bowl matchup, and then pick your winner. Go ahead, Rhett.
Man, Baltimore feels like the team to beat, so they're going to be my team I have to win it. And then I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going chalk. San Francisco just looks too good right now. So Baltimore, San Francisco, Baltimore wins it all.
Drew?
Yeah, I'm taking Baltimore as well, but there's no way in hell I'm picking San Francisco to go to the Super Bowl. So I'll say Baltimore, Dallas, but Baltimore's going to win it.
Mike?
Down to me. I won't be a home guy and have the Browns there. I do think the Browns will win game 1, so that's my extra comment there. From there, no promises. I'm going to go on a bit of a limb this year, a team on a roll, and I'm going to go with my second team, the Bills, just because the road they have. So Pittsburgh, I think, not that any game's a gimme, but I think maybe it is the Bills' year if they can get the right string of games along here. It's tough to say. And then I think probably the Niners on the other side. So Bills, Niners.
The Steelers beat the Bills already this year. This isn't like a mystical thing that might happen. It's already happened.
You know the Steelers is like the meme with the 3 dragons where the 2 of them are looking tough and then one of them looks crazy and cockeyed. And like that's the Steelers. We know this.
Yeah. Well, and then as a Browns fan, I can go, against the enemy and then pick the Bills.
That's fair.
Go in the AFC. Yeah.
Right.
We'll
Mike,
see.
I love the rivalry aspect of it. I appreciate it. That's the same reason I won't pick San Francisco despite them looking as good as they are. So I can respect that.
All right, Eric, what do
Wasn't
you
there like
got?
a really good defensive lineman or something on the Steelers that played the first time? I think his name's like Derek Watt or something like that.
Yeah,
Some guy
Derek Watt.
Derek Watt, the full.
Great fullback. Don't worry, we got Nick Herbig. He's coming in. He'll roll in and 3 sacks. Nick Herbig. Book it now.
I like it. What do you got, Eric? What's your call, man?
I'm going to repeat what I did on our show last night. I'm like bold takes, and I'm going a little off the script. I think we're going to have a storybook run of Joe Flacco and the Browns in the Super Bowl versus Matt Stafford going for the Hall of Fame career. So we're going to have Browns with Stafford getting 2 Super Bowls and being a Hall of Famer.
Wow. I dig it.
Chris, you need to bring this guy on the show more often, man. He's
You have no how. It is so exciting to hear the Cleveland Browns prognosticated to win. I mean, made my night. Just absolutely made my night.
Joe Flacco, the prophecy, man. I'm ready.
It's hot. All right, Evan, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I said it on our show, and I don't feel great about the Brownies, but there's just something in the air in Cleveland. They believe, you got to believe in them. So, yeah, I had the Browns on the AFC side, and then I also had the Niners because I thought the Niners were the better team last year. They should have probably beaten the Eagles and taken that spot. If the injury quarterback wouldn't have happened, it probably would have happened. And being a diehard Eagles fan, it's pretty hard to admit that, but it just feels like the Niners' year. But the Browns really have to get that kicking and punting game figured out to really have a shot.
Yeah, they do. All right, Mike, what do you got, man?
All right, so last night I did the funniest possible outcome, which would be the Browns versus the Bucks, and then Baker Mayfield wins it all over the Browns.
The Browns.
We'll do a real possible situation. And I think it could be Chiefs-Niners, which would be gross. And I think it's the Niners' year. They're finally healthy. The big thing that we've been worried about with them is health. And unless something catastrophic happens, can't stop them.
I can't see it. I can't see Brock Purdy.
Trent Williams MVP.
Okay. Trent Williams MVP.
Offensive line finally gets some love, man. Finally.
I like it. I was on the 3-man rush pod last night with Drew. My pick, we went through it. I got Baltimore and Dallas, with Baltimore taking it. Dallas is just on a heater. Another team that's on a heater is, I got to give it to you, Drew, is the Rams, man. If there's any team that resembles any kind of New York Giants Cinderella run, it's got to be the Los Angeles Rams. The vibes around that team right now are at an all-time high, and coming off beating the 49ers week 18 on the right foot. They got the defense that can do it. They got the offense that can do it. If it's going to be shootout ball, I can see a situation where the Rams just come out on top, man, being the last team that scores. So the upset we did have was the Bucks beating the Eagles. So that was a big one. A lot of us were on board with that. So Bucks beating the Eagles, with the Eagles only winning 1 of their last 6 games, is a definite possibility. But let's get into why we're here. Let's get into why the viewers are here. Of course, January mock drafting 2024 SuperFlex mock draft, half point PPR. We're all in the room. We'll pull up the board. Drew, we drew names at the start. Not really. I just put your name at the top because I think out of all of us, you've done the least amount of homework. So we wanted to make it easy on you, brother. So you get the 101, my guy.
I'm at the top, just like the Rams are going to be here in about a month. So it's all good, man. I'll take it. Yeah, there's not much.
Draft?
Hopefully not. Not anytime soon anyway. That was supposed to happen. I mean, they didn't have any picks. They had no draft capital. They were going to be in the basement, and then look at them now. there's not much excitement with this one. There's not. I think there's a lot of prospect fatigue going on. And people are getting upset about a guy painting his nails and getting upset because he lost a game and stuff like that. And I don't care about that shit. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is what he put on the field, and it's been nothing but great. And he's the 101 in the NFL draft. He should be the 101 in your rookie drafts. It's still Caleb Williams for me.
Yep. Anyone disagree with Caleb Williams as the 101?
I am going to make an argument for my pick at 102.
Nice.
So I'm going to continue this with the second pick here and go with Marvin Harrison, mainly because we know what he's going to be coming into the NFL. You can talk to basically any dynasty ranker, and they're going to tell you that he's probably going to slot in as a top 5 dynasty wide receiver right off the rip. We know that he is the best college prospect to come out in a very long time at any position, period. So you take that, you put the question marks of the quarterback landing spots. Where is Caleb going to go to the Bears? I mean, the Bears have decent amount of question marks. They have some promise, but there's enough question marks there that as long as Marvin Harrison goes somewhere with a quarterback that can throw a football more than 5 yards, he's going to be fine.
And I will say, I do have these two guys in the same tier to where, like in a SuperFlex league, if I have 2 established quarterbacks and I traded for a pick this high up, I have no issue taking Marvin Harrison Jr. So I do have him in the same tier. I don't have any issue with that. But if I'm quarterback needy, I'd be going Caleb. But I completely get the argument to go Marvin Harrison Jr. there too, though.
Yep, pretty chalky with the first 2 picks. Richard Sickles is next up on the clock. Newest Fantasy in Frames member. Hopefully he makes his pick here. Drake May at the 103 QB2 off the board. It is a super flex draft. So again, a lot of people are going to make cases throughout the whole offseason of Jaden Daniels being the QB2. Drew and myself argued about it on a couple episodes prior to this one.
Hey, who won that argument, Chris?
I mean, you won the argument, but should you have won the
All right.
argument is the, I mean, that's
hey, talk to the judge, baby. Talk to the judge.
Man, that's up to the judge. All right, Eric, who do you got at the 104?
So for me, I think this is going to be really subjective based upon where he lands. But I do think being in the super flex and the amount of talent that this man has, I'm going to go Jaden Daniels at the 1.04. But if he lands somewhere really cold, like if the Bears trade down and take him there, that would worry me a little bit with his frame. But we don't know where they are right now. So right now I'm going to say Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super flex format. It's a pick that you're going to want to make. You had a great last season at LSU. Does the seasons before that worry you at all? Does that come into play at all? Or are you completely bypassing his time at Arizona State and the year before this past season at LSU with Jaden Daniels?
Honestly, it doesn't worry me too much. He had such a large improvement this year and has such an athletic profile that I think even if he comes in a little raw, that his legs will almost give him a Justin Fields like rookie season. And as a fantasy player, I think it's a very safe floor to be starting him.
Yeah. Out of all the QBs in the draft, I believe these are the 3 that get first round capital. I don't think Bo Nix or Michael Penix, Penix Jr., even JJ McCarthy, if he does declare, I don't believe any of those other quarterbacks are going to get that first day draft capital. Of the quarterbacks in the class, I believe it's these 3. Rhett, do you see a quarterback outside of these 3 getting that first day capital, man?
Day 1 capital. You probably have. Well, that national championship outing was rough for Penix, but once he gets through the process and depending on how he throws and all those different things, I know he's 24. I know he has an injury history, but if he lands in the right spot where that deep ball gets put to use, I mean, that guy can potentially be a baller. So left-handed or not, I know people make a big deal out of that too. Like he's still throwing the ball. He can still sling it. So if there's a day 1 guy there, I think it's going to be Penix. Last week they were saying top 10. I don't think we're there, but I mean, yeah, I think he's a possibility for sure.
Yep. I got the 105. You guys made this very easy for me. Some would say the wide receiver 1. I'm not going to make that argument. I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver 1. So I'm going to take the wide receiver 2 in the class. That's Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Mike Haas, man, I know I probably sniped you here. I know you're probably thinking Sam Hartman at the 106 with your allegiance to Notre Dame football. But who you taking, man?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You did snipe me. I like Malik Neighbors. Love the Jaden Daniels pick, by the way. Watched a lot of LSU and had Jaden on several fantasy teams. So cheered a little bit for LSU. So in this spot, I could probably roll the dice, but I'm not really going off the board. We said this was tight end premium, right?
No tight end premium.
No tight end premium. Good thing I asked that question. So where I'd probably go is pick a receiver the other night that played with Michael Penix, and probably pick Nduze and put him in this slot. Disappointing the other night on a few balls that Michael usually hits him with those passes, and it would have been a closer game. But heck of a receiver, and I think he will immediately come into the league with his size and his catch radius, and can play every wide receiver position on a team. So I think he might have some of the least transition into the NFL behind Harrison. That's who I put in there.
Yeah, we got a question here from Richard Sickles. I'm going to pass this one to you, Eric, because you're the guy that did draft Jaden Daniels. He said he's seen a couple mocks with Jaden Daniels going to the Minnesota Vikings. How do you feel about that?
I think that is a fantastic landing spot for Jaden Daniels. Being in a dome, 8 to 9 games a year, NFC North right now, there's, other than the Bears' up-and-coming defense, there's no defense that scares the crap out of you. I really, really like that landing spot. Plus, he's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Addison. He's got a whole bunch of weapons that he can use there. I actually think that is one of the best possible spots for him to land, and would put him in an argument into that second QB slot.
Is there a team that he would land on that would make you adjust your rankings of the quarterbacks significantly, where you would drop him maybe out of the top, 6 picks?
One of the only ones that that is QB needy, and this hurts me as a Bears fan, but I would not like him on the Bears. I also don't love Caleb Williams on the Bears, actually. I'm actually very much in favor of the Bears taking Drake May because of the big body type and playing cold so much up there. I actually think he fits what the Bears want to do a lot more. That would actually bump May up for me. But I think that is the only landing spot that would really scare me with Jaden, because we've just seen that with Justin Fields.
Yep, that's fair. I like that. All right, Rhett, you're on the clock. 107. Who you taking?
I think y'all made it easy for me, and especially based off the mock draft stuff that I've seen as of yesterday. I saw this mock at PFF where Brock Bowers was projected to be drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. And if we're looking at it this offseason, with T. Higgins likely out of the door, Tyler Boyd on his last legs, Joe Mixon being past his best, I think we saw that this year. If Brock Bowers were to land in the Cincinnati Bengals, he immediately likely becomes the second option in that offense in terms of the passing game. And if that happens, if some sort of situation like that happens where he gets a Kyle Pitts-like landing spot from a couple years ago where he can immediately come in and be that first and second option in an offense, it's wheels up on Brock Bowers. And at the 107 tight end premium or not, half PPR, we saw what Sam Laporta did this year. We saw even Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave. A lot of tight ends came in. The position is changing. Dalton Kincaid. In past years, there was so much concern about whether a tight end can come in and immediately contribute. That's starting to be a little bit in the past now. So Brock Bowers at the 107, you have to do it at this point.
Yeah. I saw Christian Williams from Football Guys had a mock to the Kansas City Chiefs. And if the NFL lets the Kansas City Chiefs get Brock Bowers, I'm going to be so upset, man. It's just not going to be fair.
I heard Chargers.
Chargers would be a great spot. Yeah, Chargers would be a great spot for him to land. I just want to see a player like that not land in a situation where he's not going to be utilized for the talents that he possesses. All right, Mike Cash, 108. Who you got, man?
All right. I want you to take 2019 to 2022 and just throw it away. Pretend that never happened. I went through Tankathon for the NFL right now. There are 10 quarterback needy teams in the top 16. So the chances of another quarterback getting top 15 draft capital and being safe is exponentially high, especially when you talk about how crappy the 2022 draft was, how little the 2021 draft panned out. Like, there's a lack of quarterback talent, and Bo Nix has just enough to get the first round draft capital. Give me Bo Nix.
Ooh,
Spicy.
It's SuperFlex. I'm going to
It's
swing.
SuperFlex. It's SuperFlex. Oh, that's a big swing, though. That's a big swing there. I like that you premised it with saying completely disregard his time at Auburn because he was absolute trash.
Oh, yeah. But he looks more refined from a mechanics perspective. He looks more refined in his reads. Maybe that's because he's a grown man playing with teenagers, but we'll try to forgive that.
Speaking of Bo Nix at Auburn, this is probably one of my favorite jokes of all time. Back in the day, early 2010s, SEC had a little quarterback named Bo Wallace, which we call Dr. Bo for better or worse, because he could either cut your heart out or cut his own heart out one of those days. So Bo Wallace, then Bo Nix was the follow-up, but then I'm glad to see he got it worked out. So, 108 Bo Nix. That's spicy, Mike. I like it. Keep going.
Yeah, we got a comment here. Jonathan James, first time I've seen a tight end going off the board before a running back in a rookie draft. Now, does that speak volumes for the rookie running backs in the class that are coming in? Evan, do you see any running backs if Travion Henderson does declare? Do you see any running backs getting day one capital or early day two capital?
Day one capital, most definitely no. I don't see a single one of these running backs getting day one capital. And looking at it, day two capital is even hard inside of itself. There's you're grasping at straws at some of these running backs to try and hone in on one specific thing that they do incredibly well and trying to overlook things that they don't do all that well or warts that they have, which makes me say that I think there's only going to be one running back taken in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft.
Yeah. And who's your call? Is it Henderson?
The call, if Henderson comes out, is Henderson. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I hope Henderson lands on the Houston Texans. I mean, we've seen CJ Stroud bang the drum for Tank Dell. Hopefully he brings in his old teammate there into Houston. Then I'm going to be drafting all the Travion Henderson I can get. Again, we are drafting in January. We're drafting this based off vibes right now. So we might see some crazy things like Bo Nix at the 108. But that's fine. That's why we're here to talk these bad decisions out, right, Mike?
I mean, if he goes first round, that's a steal.
It's a steal there at the 108. I agree.
Let's revisit this in April.
Yeah, exactly. So 101, Caleb Williams, 102, Marvin Harrison, 103, Drake May, 104, Jaden Daniels, 105, Malik Neighbors, 106, Romo Dunze, 107, Brock Bowers, 108, Bo Nix, and we got Drew 3MR lined up at the 109.
Yeah, the running back truthers do not have to wait any longer. We started talking about him a little bit here, and assuming he declares he is my running back one in this class, I think he would be. I agree. I don't think any running back gets taken in the first round of the NFL draft, but I do think if Travion Henderson ends up declaring he is a second round pick, and I know we kind of preach, day two running backs, but even more importantly, the second round and the third round, there is a large difference in hit rates. And so if Travion Henderson declares he ends up getting drafted in the second round, he would be an easy first round pick for me, even in SuperFlex. So for Travion Henderson, as a runner, he was really effective. And then on top of that, this last year, he had a career high 7.5% target share out of the backfield as well. So I still haven't gotten warm and fuzzy about his pass blocking abilities. I got to do a little bit more tape watch on that to see if he can really stick as a 3-down player. But I think he has as good of a chance as any running back to eventually grow into a 3-down back. And so if he ends up getting the draft capital, he has the profile at this point to where he would be my running back one. So I'll take him here at the back end of the first round.
Yep. I like that there. Mike Haas with the 110. Who you rolling with, man?
Oh, making it hard on here. Picking another pick. Interesting. A different team, so I have to get into the flow. That's different. This is not that first pick. My first team, different team. Well, I'll go. It's not a wild card pick, but I'll go back to somebody said earlier. I can't remember who said that on Michael Penix, but I would take the risk and the shot at putting in Michael Penix with the talent there. I know he's had the injuries, but when we're drafting this for fantasy, you want to take who at their optimum level of their game and what they can show. I thought the other night Michigan did a great job of using everyone to pressure him and not necessarily sack him immediately. And I think that would be the only negative on him. Once you work through that and you get to the pros, people that one rusher, say Garrett, getting him right away or something like that. But Michigan threw him off a little bit, and his pass was just off a little bit. But he was 3 or 4 passes from being the star of that game, and the game being totally flipped, literally, and just missed them. So it'll be hard to say what the NFL, what the scouts say and do with that in the big game. We've seen it go both ways quite often historically, where they are harder on them for maybe not performing in the big game and how much of the other content that they take into account. But in the nature of this for a draft, I would definitely, roll the dice with him and get good value in the first round still with him.
Yep. 5 QBs taken off the board in the first 10 picks. Just as one running back going in the first 10 picks speaks volumes on the running back draft class, 5 QBs taken in the first 10 picks speaks volumes on the quarterback draft class. Rhett Manuel with the 111. Are you following the trend with another QB?
I am not. As a matter of fact, I'm going a little hot take because I'm a little higher on this guy than most people are. I put a tweet out last week and I had him as my 108. So getting Brian Thomas at the 111, I mean, I love Brian Thomas. I love that late first round draft capital has now projected to be, which means he's going to fall onto a good team. And I've seen the Kansas City stuff, and we know they need a deep threat because MVS is not that guy. Sky Moore is not that guy. Kadarius Toney, not that guy. I don't know if you guys know that. So
just a room full of guys that are not that
just
guy.
A room full of not that guys in that place. So, if you get a guy like Brian Thomas who ends up in Kansas City, he ends up being a nice compliment for Rashee Rice. So, I mean, Brian Thomas at this point, late first round, had a great year. Great deep threat, great vertical speed, gets up the field, good contested ball guy. I mean, these are the types of guys that tend to translate well on the outside in the league. So at 111, I'll take that.
Yep. Love that pick there with the 111 LSU wide receiver. 2 of them taken in the first round of this January rookie draft. Mike Cash finished off the first round with the 112. You started with Bo Nix at the 1-8. You got another spicy one for us here?
Well, first of all, I'm spiraling because while I did a Jaden Daniels film study, which if you haven't seen it, check it out. And I literally in there, I go, Brian Thomas rocks. I need to watch more of him because every time you're watching Daniels play, like he is just putting Thomas in these amazing situations and Thomas is balling out. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take a sharp left turn and go to, we'll call it a little stack. I'm just going to say this is one big team. So does Bo Nix make Troy Franklin good, or does Troy Franklin make Bo Nix good? So I'll just take Troy Franklin, and I feel good about that. He's currently number 27 on the PFF good board, and that's big board, and that's among all players. So he's a good football player.
Big, fast. I think they clocked him in at 23 miles per hour in game. So the guy's got the speed needed to make the big plays that anyone wants as a fantasy manager. Troy Franklin there. Who was moaning about that pick? Is that you,
Drew? Was, man, because I'm up next, and that was my pick. I love Troy Franklin, man. He's a stud. There's only I saw a note earlier that there's only been 3 first-round receivers to accomplish at least 24 points per game and 3 yards per pass attempt at 20 years old, which Troy Franklin did do, and that was Amari Cooper, Drake London, and Justin Blackmon. And then if you even want to include second-rounders, assuming he doesn't go in the first round, you add A.J. Brown, Elijah Moore, and Marquise Lee to that list. So his profile is great. The tape is great. I love the player. He's my wide receiver 4, so I was really hoping that he would fall to me here. So that was a heartbreaking pick.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can comp him to Elijah Moore, you got to jump on that.
I'm not giving up. I refuse.
I like the pick there, Drew. You are starting us off at 201, man.
Yeah, I thought that I was going to go wide receiver, but I'm actually going to go back to the running back. Will, man, for me, as soon as this guy declared, I got really excited, and I know that he's dealing with injuries, and I don't care if he's dealing with injuries. He's my running back too. With the way that medicine has advanced now in terms of him recovering, I fully believe that he will be, assuming it depends on where he gets drafted, what the running back room looks like. But if there's questions in the running back room in the NFL, I think he has a good shot at being the most talented running back in a lot of running back rooms in the league. And eventually talent will rise to the top. And he's got all the talent, man. He's dealing with the injury, but he had 8.89 yards per team pass attempt, and he had a 9% target share. He finished the season tied for the highest points per game of any running back listed, and he slots in as a running back 2 for me. I don't love the running back class as a whole, but I do love a couple guys at the top. And these 2 guys that I picked here, Travion Henderson and Jonathan Brooks, I'm probably going to end up having a lot of them.
Yeah, love that pick. Love the Jonathan Brooks pick there. Let's just rifle off the first round before we move on to Evan's pick. First went Caleb Williams. Marvin Harrison went second. Drake May followed by Jaden Daniels. After that, 2 wide receivers in Malik Neighbors and Romo Dunze. Tight end 1, Brock Bowers picked at the 107, followed by Bo Nix. Travion Henderson, Michael Penix Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., and Troy Franklin to round out the first round. Drew started off the second round picking the RB2 off the board, Texas running back Jonathan Brooks, and Evan's going to hit us off with the 202.
Yeah, really love the Jonathan Brooks pick. The only thing that I do have concern of with Brooks for fantasy gamers is if he does come back a little slow from the knee injury, I do think there'll be a little bit of a buy window there for a potential pick up a little bit later. But I'm going to go with the physical freak. I'm going to go with Keon Coleman. Really loved him when he was at Michigan State as well with Jaden Reed there. Crazy enough, that offense had 2 really good wide receivers, and the team was still bad. Michigan State, what are you going to do? Seeing him also be able to return punts, I think adds versatility. And then you also get to the combine where, being a physical freak, he should absolutely smash the combine. So maybe that ends up getting baked into some of his draft value that fantasy gamers are going to put on him, expecting him to smash the combine. So it could be a little bit of a letdown. But I think combine's going to continue to push him up the board. And likely, I think he's going to end up being a back-end first-round pick.
Yeah, man, I love the Keon pick. And I'm actually going to riff a little bit because one of my many hustles, I do some high school football coverage on the side. And I actually covered Keon Coleman in high school. I'm going to tell you a story where he's playing at the small 1A school, and they're playing another super small school. Never seen this in my life. Will never see it again. I once saw a football coach be willing to play 9 on 11. Keon comes across motion in the spread offense. They roll not 1, but 2 guys over to the same side of the field. So they're willing to triple team Keon Coleman just to take him away. And just for record, it didn't work.
Kid's a baller. Kid's an absolute baller. The wide receiver 6 taken in this draft. So some pretty good value there at the 202. We have Richard Sickles picking at the 203. He started the draft off with Drake May. Let's see who he follows it up with here. Still some good. Emeka Egbuka, solid wide receiver. We still don't know if Emeka Egbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Travion Henderson, all these OSU guys, whether or not they're going to declare for the NFL draft. But if they do, Emeka Egbuka is a baller. And it's kind of like that whole wide receiver room there for OSU. He was playing, 5th fiddle last year, 2nd fiddle to Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. So great pick. Another player that if he ends up in a landing spot that could be beneficial for him. I'm hoping Buffalo for Emeka. That's a guy who could be instant fantasy producer. We got Eric at the 204. Are you going Rocky Lombardi or where are you looking?
No, I am so excited my guy is here. I thought somebody might swoop in and take him. But can I interest you all in my current QB4, and depending where he can land, maybe even bump it up to 3, JJ McCarthy. Absolutely love my boy. This year had a 73% completion percentage with 2,851 yards. He had 22 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and 3 of those interceptions came in a Bowling Green game that didn't really matter when Jim Harbaugh was suspended and everything was weird in the beginning of the year. Take that out, that's 22-1.
He
My man
threw
went
3 interceptions against
27-1.
Bowling Green?
3 against Bowling Green when the whole Jim Harbaugh
Off my
stuff
draft board.
came out.
Off the
I'm
board.
excusing it. Y'all can say whatever you want. I'm excusing it. But he's 6'3", 202, has not even turned 21 years old yet. So my man's going to keep on growing, getting bigger and stronger. If you put him with a good offensive coach, and he put up all these numbers in a run-first offense, I'm so excited to see what he does on the next level. He's a former 5-star recruit out of high school. I am all in on the J.J. McCarthy train.
And also, you have to love a quarterback who is just irrationally confident in most things in life. So those guys. I mean, I'm all in. Let's have some fun with JJ McCarthy and let's see what happens where he goes in the draft.
So excited.
Yep, great pick there, especially SuperFlex format. Can't go wrong getting him as the QB6. So don't hate it. Don't know if I love the pick, considering that Michigan didn't really ask him to do too much in important situations. Kind of has me worried just a little bit. But SuperFlex, like you said there, with everything that he did do in Michigan, it's a great pick, man. I think
Thank you.
205.
I think if you saw him on a team like Washington that asked him to do more, you would have seen him put up bigger numbers.
You would have seen him ball out. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that. That play where he had the rush for what was the third and 8, and it was 22-yard rush when he was in his own zone. I mean, that's a big brain play, man. A lot of QBs ain't gonna read that and make those kind of plays. And we've seen him make NFL level throws, and then we've seen him completely miss wide open receivers. So it's going to be one of those guys that if he kills at the combine, his draft stock could potentially shoot up. But it's going to be an interesting offseason. At the 205, I'm going to take my RB2 in the class. For me, a guy that I have hoarded in all my Devy and C2C teams since his freshman year, and that is Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin, an absolute killer. Does struggle a little bit of pass pro, but the guy's 21 years old, 20 years old.
I think he just turned 17 or something, right? Like he's so
stupid young. He did it at the college level. He put up great numbers as a 17-year-old. The guy squats houses for a living, man. So
I think you're in our group chat. We're all texting on the side right now, and I just texted, I can't believe no one's taken Braylon Allen, and then he goes next pick. Whoever is texting Chris on the side, we're not friends anymore.
I appreciate it.
He was my next running back up too, so I love the big man.
In a running back class that doesn't have that, what we deem generational guy, in my eyes, it is full of running backs that the NFL is going to love. So as fantasy producers, we might not get the Breece Hall or, a Christian McCaffrey out of it. We might not get, that guy that's going to put up 20 fantasy points per game. But we're going to see guys that are going to see snaps because it's just chock full of running backs that NFL teams are going to fall in love with. And if you have a dynasty team, start collecting those second and third round picks because you're going to find a lot of good value. As you can see already through, what are we through 17 picks here? There's some guys that in the second round that could potentially be first round picks.
I got a question for you before you move on.
Yep.
On Braylon Allen. So I'm curious your thoughts on his receiving profile because I know it grew a little bit this year, and I know he's still extremely young. I mean, the reason that I have Trevion Henderson and Jonathan Brooks ahead of him is because I think that they have shown a little bit more pass catching chops than Braylon Allen. But as you mentioned, he played as a 17-year-old his first year. You know, I mean, he's essentially a year younger than everybody else he's playing against, is still dominating on the run game. Do you think that he can continue to grow as a pass catcher, or do you think he'll be more of a 2-down runner that can be like, I know he can catch dump offs and he can make that happen, but do you think he can develop a route tree and turn into a 3-down running back?
I think he can do it. I just don't think he'll do it to the point where it's going to be a big part of his game as a fantasy running back. So he'll get the pass catches. He'll be involved in the passing game, but he's not going to go see 6 to 8 targets a game. You might only see the 4 to 5 targets, maybe 3 to 4 receptions a game. So he's not going to go out there and be that pass catching 3-down roll back. Like you said, he'll have the opportunity to do it. We've seen him be more involved in Wisconsin in the pass game this past season. But I think he can do it. I just don't think it's going to be a big part of his game.
Sure.
So he's my RB2. I got him. I got Travion. I got Braylon. I don't got Jonathan Brooks as high as most, but at the
I know I'm higher than consensus on him, and I'm cool with that. It's all right.
No, and as you should be, man. The kid balled out at Texas before he got hurt. You should be high on Jonathan Brooks. I think PFF had him as their RB1. I think I saw posted on on Twitter there. So yeah, there's high praise for Jonathan Brooks. At 206, we got Mike Haas. Mike, who you taking?
I changed my mind 3 times during that whole conversation. I think I circled and changed. I actually like 3 players. I'm going to name the first player that you
can only
think
pick
I
one.
Would pick as a Notre Dame fan. I'm just going to put an asterisk. I'm not going to pick Audric Estime, even though I agree with your analysis, like on Braylon Allen and some of the running backs that will produce or could run for 1,000 yards, but may not do it, in the most sexy way. That we might want in fantasy football landscape, but he will do well. But I'm going to go not off the board, but with Corum with Michigan. I would take Blake Corum. I scribbled down a couple notes that he kind of reminds me a little bit of James Cook, but much better. And I don't mean that as a bad thing to say on James Cook. I like the Bills and James Cook, but as this draft unfolded, and I'm thinking of Corum just keeps producing and can do everything and has pedigree and the mindset to, I think, strive for greatness maybe out of a lot of these backs. Like every time he's interviewed, you listen to him again the other night and you think he has some it factor. And I think it'd be good value in a draft like this at this stage. And that I think he may be the most talented guy that can do pretty well everything in the draft class, in my opinion. There's a few others, but with his tenacity and looks like his willingness, looks like he's determined to do this. So I'd take
love
Corum.
the Blake Corum pick there. Yeah, I dig it, man. Rhett, you're up at 207. What do you got?
My mic on? Yeah, my mic's on. Perfect. All right, so we're at the point right now where there is a lot of good receiver talent still left. Xavier Worthy, Tez Walker, A.D. Mitchell, Jalen McMillan. Like, you've got options. Trey Benson is there, and I'm Trey Benson fairly high, so let's continue that running back run. Let's go with Trey right here. I know he's one of these guys who, I had him up as my RB2 before Jonathan Brooks declared. Great mix of size and speed, can wear you down, can hit the home run. Has some good pass catching ability as well. I was between him and Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving having that almost Devon A-Chain sort of hype behind him because he's a speed guy coming off of 50 catch season. But right here, a lot of running backs going off in running back too. Let's take Benson.
My favorite thing about the Trey Benson discourse already is seeing people on the internet saying, well, if you take away the big plays that he had, he's really not that efficient. It's like, man, I love a good old, okay, if you just take away all the things that God does good, he's actually not that good anymore. Like, that's just such a fun argument to have. So that's easily my favorite Trey Benson discourse so far. I love the pick. That would be my next running back off the board too.
If you take the tires off of Jeff Gordon's NASCAR, he's not the greatest NASCAR driver ever.
I don't know nothing about NASCAR, but I can appreciate the analogy regardless.
Perfect.
All right, Mike Cash, 208. Who you got, man?
Well, I feel like this is boring because we just called him out, but there's if you guys listen to the NFL Stock Exchange at all, there's 10 to 15 receivers that like would be round 2 or round 3 grades this year.
Yep.
But they're all just going to get shoved into places. So I'm just going to go ahead and take Tez Walker, who's currently their wide receiver 4. They're smarter than I am, and I haven't looked at his film yet, but I trust them with my whole soul. So
you're gonna love it. You're
good enough for them, good enough for me.
You're gonna love Tez Walker's film as soon as you dive into it. I don't know if anyone else has watched film on Tez. Have you've checked out Tez's film?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big fan. I was rooting for him the entire season to be able to get to play. When the NCAA came down with telling him that he was ineligible, but I was so happy to be able to see him there with Drake May.
Yeah, I agree, man. Guy floats. Guy just floats, glides out there. He does get a little clunky in his routes with some wasted movements, but man, the guy is fluid. I love me some Tez Walker. Kind of upset that he was picked there. I was going to pick him with the Braylon Allen pick, but I wanted Braylon Allen there. So second round, looking pretty good. 201, Jonathan Brooks. 202, Keon Coleman. 203, we got Emeka Egbuka. At 204, J.J. McCarthy. Only one QB taken so far in the second round. 205, Braylon Allen, followed by Blake Corum, and then Trey Benson. We went on a little running back run there. Devontae Walker at the 208, and then we got Drew picking at the 209.
Yeah, so I'm gonna keep the wide receiver run going. I'm gonna take Xavier Worthy here. He's my next receiver off the board. His freshman season was definitely his best. I think the 6th highest points per game by a freshman receiver whenever he put up 19.4 points per game. But he's had he had 2.84 yards per team pass attempt, 36.3% yard receiving share as well. But he's had at least a 27% target share every season at Texas. I love his game personally. I think it's perfect for what the NFL is looking for right now with the deep threat, the speed, and being a great separator, which is things that I don't think I valued enough in years past. And so things I'm starting to kind of focus on a little bit more. So give me Xavier Worthy here right behind Tez Walker, who I also do love.
If you had to pick a preferred landing spot for Xavier Worthy, and you can't say the Kansas City Chiefs, what's your pick?
Give me the Chargers then. Right. The wide receiver core has some holes in it, and I just give me an elite quarterback. So the Chargers was just the first to come to mind because their receiver room could use some work. So just attach him to an elite quarterback that can throw that thing down the field, and Justin Herbert can certainly do that much. So I'd love to see if they're in LA, assuming they don't use one of their premium draft picks, at the top of the first round at a receiver. That would change things a little bit. But I'd love to see. I just want to see Xavier Worthy attached to a guy that can get that thing down the field.
Hey, he'd be great on the Colts. It'd be a lot of fun to watch him take over that role from Alec Pierce.
That's true.
That's not bad.
Richardson can also get that thing down the field.
Oh, yeah. And Downs covering the short routes, Pittman being the alpha. Yeah.
I like that. spot. Low key, I kind of like that spot right there, Xavier Worthy. All right, Mike Haas. We left him for you.
Who? No. We left
you. You told us not to pick your guy this whole draft in the second round.
That's the reason I didn't pick him right there. That's if we go to round. Man. If we go to round 3, but I'll go off the board here where I'm not. I've looked at a few mock drafts. It's might be a little bit early for him, but I would take the tight end 2 here, Jatavian Sanders from Texas. Probably. One of the reasons would be I happen to watch Texas a lot this year, and the connection. It looked like they used him a lot and they gave him a lot of targets, but he certainly looks pro ready already. In certain games, he almost looked like to take over, and then the offensive play calling. You could feed him 10 balls, and they just were doing other things. But so a little bit of reading and watching him play, he certainly looks the part of several tight ends in the NFL now. And I don't think he's too far behind Brock. I think Brock is obviously he's one of my favorite players. Bowers in the draft, but Watching a few Texas games, cheering a little bit for Texas there, Mike. Shout out. I think he's going to be terrific.
If
pro
you
tight ends.
like Chigo Conquo, imagine he ate a Mario mushroom and got superpowers. That's Shatavion Sanders. You should get fired up about him. Getting him at the 210 is awesome. He's definitely not Brock, but he's an easy taxi stash.
Yeah, he looks like you come in day one. You think this year. We think of Sam Laporta. We think of the different tight ends that obviously great pedigree, great players. But when you watch those Texas games, it looked like he was playing pro ball, pro routes already, and just feed him. They just feed him more. But so it'll be interesting to see how well he does out of the gate. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah.
All right, second tight end taken off the board. We're going to limit this to 2 rounds. We're going to finish the last 2 picks and then go over some of the picks that were made. Rhett, you got pick 211, and then Mike Cash finishes it off with the 212. Who are you sniping from him here at this spot?
I'm so happy Mike Cash mentioned the NFL Stock Exchange, because I'm going to go with a guy right here who they seem to be in love with. And after watching some tape and just watching him play, I'm in love too. Guys, let's go Ladd McConkey at the 211. He's going to be a second-round pick in all likelihood. Not the fastest guy in the world, but we saw somebody with a lot of short area quickness excel and start to pop off in the league last year, also being undersized. So this is very easy for me to make the Tank Dell comparison with Ladd McConkey. Precise route runner, a guy who's just going to get open, get a little bit of separation, can win that contested ball, do a lot of things well, maybe not do anything especially great. But at this point, you got to keep in mind, A.D. Mitchell got away from Georgia to get away from Ladd McConkey and find a role at Texas. So that tells me something about him right there. So
I like it. Like the Ladd McConkey pick. A.D. Mitchell went to Texas to get away from Ladd McConkey. I like it, Rhett. I like it. I don't know if I agree with it, but I like it. All right, Mike Cash, 212. Finish this off. What you got, man?
All right. First and foremost, A.D. Mitchell did not go to Texas to get away from McConkey. He went there to play with Quinn Ewers and then have 11 touchdowns because he's a red zone monster, 6'4", 800 yards. Give me A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's an easy one.
That was my next available player. My next
was that your pick there? Who would you pick there at the 301 now? Because A.D. Mitchell was taken, just out of curiosity, Drew.
With A.D. Mitchell gone, it would probably be one of the running backs, either Bucky Irving or Audric Estime. Would be kind of a coin flip between those two guys. But I'd be looking at the running backs between those two guys again. With A.D. Mitchell off the board.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that pick. Considering the running backs that are still on the board, Eric, Will Shipley, Bucky Irving, Audric Estime, Monty Bailey, Raymond Davis, Donovan Edwards, who we've seen in the national championship go off for 2 big runs. All these pretty much done all year. Kendall Milton, another big body bruiser running back. Rasheen Ali, who lit up the college football game. Just Marshawn Lloyd is coming from USC. Just like a bunch of guys that can ball. Do you see much movement from what we've drafted here today with the running backs at all? Or is it pretty much what you think is going to happen up until, we get into the thick of draft season?
I think it actually went, as far as running backs go, pretty standard, pretty chalk. I don't think you're going to see a ton of these guys go high, and we're going to hit this point at the end of the second, beginning of the third round, where there's a bunch of lotto tickets that you kind of just have your guy, and you're going to take swings at him. I know I'm personally not planning on taking a running back at all until the third round this year, and then hoping I get like a Isaiah Pacheco in the 5th round 2 years ago. Someone who just kind of comes out of nowhere and I can lotto ticket with it.
Yeah, and it's full of guys that could very well be that Isaiah Pacheco in this draft. So you want to stock those second. You could see the second round here. There's a ton of good value in the second round. So you want to make sure you're stocking up on those second, third round picks in your drafts. Mike Cash, first round. Who's the one guy you could see drop completely out of this first round? And you can't pick Bo Nix.
All right. I was going to say it's a toss-up between him and Penix because both of those picks were based purely off of we think they're going to get first-round pedigree. I did a whole profile on what the draft capital spent on a player equates to their hit rate. And for quarterbacks, it is rough. If you ain't a first rounder, you're not useful. So it's first rounder bust for those two quarterbacks, and we just really got to see how it plays out.
Totally agree.
Yep.
Totally agree.
Evan, go ahead, Mike. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I just agree with that when you're doing this format, with what Mike was saying, Penix and Bo, like you watch them play, they got that pedigree there, but they're gonna need the support and encouragement from these NFL leaders, and whether that happens or not, that's the game we're playing here tonight. But I agree with that.
And I'd also like to, let me point out real quick, break out that quarterback rate by top 5. The top 5 picks astronomically surpass everybody else. And it should be a given, don't get me wrong. But I guess what I'm trying to get at here is those quarterbacks that go in that 15 to end of the first round, they're still first round quarterbacks, but take it with a massive grain of salt comparatively.
Yep. I agree completely. That's how I feel about this quarterback class. I'm pretty much on board with the top 3 quarterbacks, and then after that, unless a guy goes surprisingly high, I'm probably not going to own a ton of Penix or Bo Nix or McCarthy. I just don't see myself. I'd rather take shots at running back and receiver than quarterbacks that I don't, just what I've seen on film at this point, I don't think that they're going to be huge difference makers at the next level. So that just my personal opinion. I think it's a 3-guy class at the quarterback position. I think the rest of the guys are mostly just depth.
Yep. Agreed. Evan, one guy in the second round that you could see as we get closer to draft season make his way into that first round.
Let's see. I'm going to say Keon Coleman. Honestly, I know it's my pick, but I want to say Keon Coleman. I would also say X-Worthy. Xavier Worthy could also get in there, just based off of speed alone. Size, speed combo for Keon Coleman, speed, and the way that he can play into an NFL offense. I think so many times we as fantasy gamers put on that fantasy hat and think about what can this player do for me in a fantasy aspect, whereas these NFL teams obviously are looking for their franchise. What does somebody that takes off the top off of a defense do for them? I mean, it opens it up. I mean, we saw Jameson Williams go as high as he did and be taken as high as he did, traded up for, because of what he can do in stretching the defense. It's huge to offenses. It opens up so much they can do, and it's heavily valued.
Yep. I like that pick. Evan, favorite pick of the draft that wasn't made by you?
Oh, favorite pick. I mean, I loved Mike's Troy Franklin. I've been saying I've been a huge Troy Franklin fan for a very long time.
Yeah, I'm still tilting off that one.
So, Troy Franklin, in my opinion, is the pick. Honestly, I would have probably been looking at him at 109.
Yep. I liked it. I love the Troy Franklin pick. All right, Eric, we know you had a hard out. So just one quick question before you got to get out of here. Is there anyone, I saw you raise your hand when the Caleb Williams pick was made at the 101. Is there anyone else, possibly, I guess, Marvin Harrison Jr., that you would make a case for in that spot?
The only reason I raised my hand with Caleb Williams is if the Bears keep that pick and take Caleb Williams, I'm concerned about that because small quarterbacks don't tend to do as well in the Chicago cold. And that hard ground getting hit, that worries me a little bit. Not enough to really drop him way down. Of course, he's still the 1 or the 2. But if the Bears go Caleb Williams, I would strongly consider Drake May or Jaden Daniels as the 101, depending where they landed. If Caleb Williams goes to the Bears and Jaden Daniel goes to the Vikings, I think I might argue to take Jaden Daniels 101.
I like it. It. Thank you. It's going to be a fun few months from now up until the actual NFL draft with the combine, all the private workouts, these S2 test scores, which we've obviously seen doesn't really mean much because
I CJ Stroud, how he feels about those test scores.
Yeah, exactly. CJ Stroud just completely balling out. Mike Haas, your first ever live show. How you feeling, big guy? How was your first ever rookie mock draft, man?
Well, fun for one, and a credit to all you guys. Like, you're pros, all of you. Like, great work, great job. You can tell you got your research in. So I'll have, as I said, I'll be the newbie where I've watched football all my life and played this fantasy thing for a long time, but definitely see a few pointers that you guys could lend along the way. And that your stuff. So, but totally enjoyable, and glad to be here.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. Drew, favorite pick of the draft?
Favorite pick
Outside
of
the first
draft.
round. Outside the first round. So favorite
Outside of the
second
first round. Okay. So let's see. I can't pick my own, right? I think it would probably be. I honestly, I think it's your Braylon Allen pick. That was the one that kind of stuck out to me whenever it was made. He was the next running back up for me too. I think that he's, I didn't want to say this is the moment whenever he made the pick because 2 out of the 3 running backs that were taken, I took them. But I think that Henderson, Brooks, and Braylon Allen are the 3 running backs that are the best bet to be taken before day 2 is wrapped up. And those are the running backs I typically want to target. And it's with Braylon Allen being as young as he is and having the production he has, I can see NFL teams falling in love with him. It would not shock me at all to see him go in the second round. And at that point, he's going to go up even higher for me. So I think that's probably that would probably be my favorite pick in the second.
Yeah, it was a great pick, man. I don't know whoever picked him. Great pick there. Rhett.
Just to echo Richard, Mike, you did great, man.
You did great, Mike. Yes, sir. You can give yourself a pat on the back, man.
Well, a little bit stressful for the first. But Rhett calmed me down right away. He says, "Hey, breathe, Mike, breathe."
Yeah. All right, Rhett. Thanks for coming out, man. We don't need to really hear from you.
Oh, no problem, dude. I'll see lots of power. We're good.
Rhett, if Marvin Harrison Jr. and Travion Henderson don't declare, how much of a hit does it take or how much of a hit does it give to the draft class as a whole?
If Marvin Harrison and Travion Henderson don't declare.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're talking about the guy who was far and away seen as the generational talent in Marvin Harrison. So that right there makes a difference, although Malik Neighbors certainly softens that blow a little bit. And Travion Henderson, who is the RB1 in what is considered a pretty average running back class, I would say, yeah, you probably take a hit at that position where you probably don't see a running back until the second round. So for those running back needy teams who are in a dynasty draft, if Travion doesn't declare and you're desperate, you might be value shopping in the second and third round for sure.
Yep. I mean, the wide receiver class might not suffer as much. It's definitely going to take a hit considering the prospect that Marvin Harrison Jr. is. The running back class takes a big hit if Travion Henderson doesn't declare. We have a dynasty question here from the roll. And Mike Haas, as the new guy, we'll give it to you. What's Waddle's value in dynasty?
Oh, love Jalen Waddle. So you'd have to pick a player that great football player. Worry a little bit about his injuries that keep kind of cropping up, but injuries are a part of it, with all the players in the league. But tied to Tua a little bit. We'll wait and see here what happens in the playoffs. I think with Tua, I also am a Tua fan, but his injuries and what they're going to overcome. I think they started out of the gate really well, McDaniels and them. Now this is crunch time for them. So it'll depend, I think, Waddle's dynasty based upon is Tua there and everything cohesive, or is there change that may or may not happen? I just feel it's a big playoff for that team and a big playoff for Tua. But Jalen Waddle, definitely the talent, the skill set. There's dynasty value. He's young too. What is Jalen? 23, maybe years old.
25.
Or I thought he might have been a bit younger
Still
than
young.
that. But
Still young.
Yeah, but I think he holds good value.
Yep.
Yeah, he's 25. He won't turn 26 until November of next year.
So he's a bit older than I thought. But
go ahead, Eric.
I thought this might be relevant. Evan and I actually made a trade 5 days ago involving Waddle,
Let's
where
hear it.
I
Oh, here we go.
received Waddle in the 1.12, and he got the 2.03 and the 1.04. And I felt pretty good about that.
Is it SuperFlex?
SuperFlex.
Okay, so
felt
if
pretty good about that.
we put a name to it, it
Malik
would
Neighbors.
I would say Jaden
Yeah.
Daniels or Malik Neighbors plus a second for Jaden Waddle.
And then
what was
whoever
the
you grab
other
at
And the one, it's still the
112.
112. Yeah.
112?
Yep.
I think it's a good trade.
Eric
It's
knows
fair
that
across the board.
I'm not as high on Waddle as Eric is. Eric's higher on
I'm
Waddle.
lower. I'm lower than consensus
like-
on Waddle too.
Yeah.
I'm high on Waddle.
I think if they get, like, again, I like Tua, but if they get a cute quarterback a tier up from Tua, Waddle just go bonkers. Like if go to that next step in quarterback play, I think Waddle will get fed like you wouldn't believe. But Neighbors would be a nice bonus price.
I think consensus is significantly lower on Pittman, and
Mhm.
I'll be hot takey and say give me Pittman over Waddle.
I don't think that's that much of a hot take, honestly. I think he has the better chance to be the team's wide. Like Jalen Waddle's not going to leapfrog Tyreek Hill as the team's wide receiver one, and so it all really comes down to what you believe in Anthony Richardson. I think in terms of that being a hot take or not. Like Anthony Richardson fans, I don't think you're going to think it's a hot take, but guys out there that don't like Anthony Richardson, they're not going to like that take so much. But I'm an A-Rich guy. I'm a big fan. So I'm with you on that. I don't think that's a hot take, but I'm sure there's plenty out there that disagree, that don't like Richardson as much.
Yep, I'm right there with you, Drew.
I like it. Cash, where would you feel comfortable taking Jalen Waddle in a startup? What range of wide receiver?
He is firmly in the third tier of wide receivers for me. So you got the big four, talking CeeDee Lamb, Chase, Jefferson, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's in there. Then you got the next four. You're talking about your A.J. Browns, other names that evade me. And then you're going one more tier down. Tyreek Hill, who's an elite producer now. You're talking about your Nico Collins or your Tank Dell, whichever one you have higher. Talking about some elite level guys. I think he's firmly in there where there's a path to fantasy football greatness in a couple of years, but he's just going to be capped for a couple of seasons.
Yep, I like that take. Rhett, how is DJ Moore looking for the role long run in Dynasty?
First off, DJ Moore finally became the guy we all thought DJ Moore could be this year. I mean, what a season he had. I mean, playing with Justin Fields, who, whatever you think about him, I mean, he was looking for DJ Moore early and often. And as a result, what we saw was a phenomenal season. Now, his dynasty value, I'd say, is good regardless, but that also depends on what happens in the draft, because there are those sneaky commander rumors about Terry McLaurin maybe being involved, so the Commanders can move up to 1 and then him moving to Chicago. Don't know how much truth there is to that, but if there's some extra competition in there and they add another big time receiver to that team, whether it's Marvin, whether it's Terry McLaurin, doesn't really matter. That I like DJ Moore in Dynasty, but what that depends on obviously is if they add another guy who could possibly take away some of that target share, because he was the guy this year, him and Cole Kmet. So, and mostly DJ Moore.
Well, and it feels like the argument for DJ Moore against DJ Moore has always been that his catch rate just isn't there. I mean, we're talking a guy that was in the 50% catch rate in 2020, 2021, and 2022. I mean, that's just not going to get it done for where he was being taken in dynasty drafts. A lot of people soured on him, and now he puts up a 70% catch rate. So, I mean, we're talking a 15% jump on the volume of targets that he's been getting. So, yeah, he's going to produce the numbers.
That's also because Eric and I were taking turns at quarterback for the Panthers when DJ Moore was there. So now it's at least a little better.
So as a resident Bears fan here, I believe he finished wide receiver 8 this year. Am I correct? I believe he was wide receiver 8.
I thought he was top 10, yeah.
So, yeah, top 10. And that is with Justin Fields, who people think can't throw a football. If you put Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, whoever the Bears go with at 1.01, your floor might be that top 10 wide receiver for the next couple of years. And then what I really want to see is the Bears go get like a Drake May. And if they sign like a T. Higgins with him, you get 2 receivers like that out there. fantastic. Maybe another offensive lineman at the 9th, 10th spot in the draft. I think you could see him reduplicate that and maybe even hit a top 5 season.
Yeah, I mean, I
DJ
think
Moore
just
and-
the receivers we're talking about right now, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, I think they're a lot closer than folks want to admit. And I don't think that the value, like as a whole, is there. I think you can go get DJ Moore plus for Jalen Waddle, and I'm doing that all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the thing about DJ Moore, I'm looking at it right now, is the fact that, we always see him as, we're thinking, an underneath guy. He was actually 8th in the league with a 38.9% air yard share this season. Had 654 unrealized air yards.
Part of that is also because Justin Fields is a better quarterback than most folks want to admit.
Right.
But
2.34 yards per route run, 10 yards per target, 14.2 yards per reception. I mean, he was downfield this year, so it wasn't like they were just going underneath to him all year. So, all in on that profile.
You trying to tell me, Eric, that DJ Moore with the cast of Darnell Mooney and Voluis Jones don't do it for you, man? You want T. Higgins now too? You're just gonna get greedy like that?
If they told me they threw Velus Jones into Lake Michigan, I would be jumping up and down in excitement. I never want to see that man touch a football in Chicago ever again. That man
that was one of the most obvious bad picks I've seen in a long time in the draft. As soon as it happened, man, I felt bad for Bears fans immediately.
What you got, Haas?
Well, so did we talk earlier to begin the show that if the Bears will keep Fields and draft Harrison? What
that would be
interesting.
That would be interesting for DJ Moore's value, right?
Right. I'm a Justin Fields fan, and my humble opinion on their situation. I know it seems difficult, but the growth of Fields and where they're already at, you would like to think they'd be a little bit ahead than bringing in even a Caleb, although it's a tough situation they're in. But keeping Fields, drafting Harrison, and then putting him with Moore and Kmet and then, but I've read a lot of that. What's your take on that as a Chicago Bears fan there?
So I actually really like Justin Fields. I was really hurt in the beginning of the year where he started off so poorly because I actually thought he was our franchise future QB. I was big on him, and then that happened, and he got much better towards the end of the year. But it is so rare to actually have a decent team that went 7-10 around you and have a 1.01 with a couple of top-tier quarterbacks that can reset the salary clock for another 4 years that you can build around him, which is amazing. Plus, you could probably get a second back for Justin, which I also enjoy. Also, I think a low-key underreported thing was the firing of the entire offensive staff. Mm-hmm. I think if you're keeping Fields, you do not go with 3 offensive schemes in 4 years. I think that's a big signal that they're going to be looking at taking a quarterback with that top pick, because that would be a big ask for in Justin's 4th year to learn an entirely new offense.
Right.
So I think that's a big signal to that too.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, as far as building an NFL roster, like the biggest cheat code is having a quarterback on a rookie contract, because it just it gives you so much financial freedom to build around him. And so if you have the 101 and you truly believe that somebody sitting at the 101, whether it's Caleb Williams, whoever is that guy, like I don't care what you can get for Justin Fields in terms of trade value. You can't put enough emphasis on how incredible it is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract that you think can make a difference. So yeah, I'm a Justin Fields fan, but I would be pretty surprised not to see them go that route personally.
The Bears are trying to do what the 49ers were attempting to do with Trey Lance.
Yeah,
and
yeah, pretty much.
Hopefully it turns out better. But I think they're trying to do that same thing, putting a top-tier quarterback that's going to be on a rookie deal for 4 to 5 years and just stack the team around him for a 5-year window.
You got to do it. Trade I made in a Dynasty league. So just for future reference, he did say he swapped the picks up. So he got Garrett Wilson, Saquon, and a 4th, and he gave up David Montgomery, Tank Dell, and a 25 first. So Chris, you've been sending the questions to us all night. How do you feel about that Dynasty trade? Garrett Wilson, Saquon, and a 25 4th for Monty, Tank Dell, and a 25 first.
When I first saw this pop up on the screen, I was like, geez, this guy got Wilson, Saquon, and a 1st
right.
for Monty Dell and a 4th. Even the other way around, I mean, as good as Tank Dell was this past season, as good as David Montgomery can be for the Detroit Lions. I mean, Garrett Wilson is a quarterback away. Not saying that Aaron Rodgers is gonna be the quarterback for the New York Jets or for Garrett Wilson's ultimate fantasy production down the road, but I don't hate it. You're getting a premier running back in Saquon Barkley. I hold Saquon Barkley in higher regard than David Montgomery there. Tank Dell, Garrett Wilson. I mean, give me Garrett Wilson. And then you got the pick swap so as the balancer. So I don't hate it at all, man. You got two studs. You gave up two studs as well, but I like Saquon over Monty. I like Garrett Wilson over Tank Dell. I like the first over the fourth, but you can't have it all.
That'd be like my one Christmas wish for this year is just please give Garrett Wilson some competent quarterback play, because what he's been able to do his first 2 years with the shithole of a quarterback situation he's had to deal with has just been phenomenal. And everything is set up with the lack of talent in the wide receiver room, because Aaron Rodgers continues to just like, hey, bring all these guys with me that aren't actually good receivers and bring them with me wherever I go. Garrett Wilson is so damn talented, and he has nobody there with him to compete for targets. I don't know if they go get a receiver in the draft, but Garrett Wilson's one of my favorite buys in Dynasty right now.
Yeah. He's always open.
I think he can leap into that like that second, like he might already need to be there, but like right behind CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, for me he is too, but I don't know if that's consensus. But that I think for those that it isn't already consensus, I think it will be after next year once he gets some competent quarterback play.
Now, Drew, how mad are you if the Jets do the inevitable and trade for Devontae Adams?
I'm not that mad. I mean, he'll be 31 next year. Like it'll dampen some of what Garrett Wilson can do next year, but I still think that he's so damn talented, and talent is going to win out. And if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy for the full year next year, there's going to be enough to go around that I think that they can both shine. And Aaron Rodgers has plenty of years in the past of supporting multiple top receivers for fantasy. So it would definitely be. It wouldn't be as good if it's Garrett Wilson by himself, but it wouldn't sour me too much.
How about Rodgers stays healthy for like 8 plays this year? That'd be great.
8 plays.
That would be an upgrade.
As long as it's 8 plays with passes to Garrett Wilson, I won't hate it, man.
Oh, I drafted him 2 leagues, set up first play. Oh my god.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I don't know how many people have actually looked and started thinking about 25 yet, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the 25 first is probably being overrated right now.
Okay. I haven't looked too much in 2025 draft class outside of there's a couple of running backs I like, but outside of that, I haven't looked into it too much. So that's interesting.
Quarterback class isn't that sexy as of right now. Not really, not like this one where we just did a mock draft and we picked 5 in the first round. I mean, I don't even know if we see 1 in the first round. There's a QB out of Penn State, Drew Allard, that might garner that attention, but.
He's got to work on his deep ball. As a Penn State fan here, he's got to work on his deep ball.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. But, I mean, other than him, like
Judkins, Singleton.
Yeah, you got, running back-wise, Judkins, Singleton. You got Luther Bird in there as he's my wide receiver 1 if, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. Declares in the class. Evan Stewart there. It's got some very good positional players, maybe not as deep as this class, but you don't want that 2025 first to be a top end pick. If it's a top end pick, then maybe you lean a little more towards the other side of the trade. But I'm going to take Wilson and Barkley and all day over the other two.
Yep, I agree.
So now hearing that, I like the Penix and Knicks picks in this draft.
Oh, because of the 25 class, yeah.
I've looked at we've seen that, Chris, when we're doing our research on C2C in those leagues, but really I'm trying to call to mind quarterback that'll stick out and come in that draft and take off.
I mean, Ewers is probably the best one, and he just went
Ewers,
back to school, so
that's
now
true.
He's going to be coming back out.
Quinn Ewers, Shadur Sanders,
Cade Klubnik was Clemson. Everybody was excited for him. He's not looked up to the par.
Behind the bed. Yeah.
Drew Lohr hasn't looked the part. I mean, everybody said at Penn State that Drew Lohr was going to come in and be the Josh Allen for him.
Next Josh Allen was what I was told.
Yeah, I know. Trust me. I was very excited for Penn State to finally have a good quarterback.
Yeah, it could still happen. It could still happen. They just had the big wide receiver transfer, right?
I mean, Fleming. Is that what you're talking about?
Fleming, yeah, from Ohio State. Yeah, from a 5-star.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the wide receiver 1 on Penn State, isn't he?
We'll see.
Lambert.
Yeah, we'll see.
And you got Barry and Brown, another high profile wide receiver there from Kentucky.
Damn straight we do.
Out. Yeah, so
really?
It's I don't see it being as deep. It's got some top end, wide receivers and running backs that can make a good splash. Quarterback wise, it's gonna be, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with next season. But fellas, I mean, I can talk with you guys for another 2 hours. I can draft another 4 rounds.
We could have had another round done by now, man.
Yeah. You made it so easy. I appreciate you guys coming on the show. Mike, I appreciate you picking this one to be your Fantasy in Frames debut. Evan, Eric, Mike as well from the FFRPG pod. One thing we do on the show at the end when we have guests is we give them the floor to promote everything they got going on, whether it's inside of fantasy football, outside of fantasy football, something that you're working on the side, a little passion project that you may want to promote. The frame is yours. We'll let you guys go around, let the people know where they can find you, give them your ads, give them what you're working on. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so Mike hates me on our pod because I am technologically inept. So social media and technology, that is just not my friend at all. I'm basically an 80-year-old man stuck in a 28-year-old man's body. So there's not really any ads, but I am on Sleeper, Discord, anything of that nature. We have our Discord for the RPG Discord, and we try and get it rolling a little bit. We're working on getting it up and going. YouTube for us. You can come see us every Tuesday at 8:30 Eastern.
Yep. Eric, you got anything you're working on?
Work. That's about it. I'm kind of like Evan.
Heck yeah.
Not on the socials and stuff like that a ton. I just have fun doing this podcast with these boys. Love these guys. Awesome team to do it. Miss Core tonight. He's not feeling well. Wish he could have been here too. If you want to find me on the Insta, I am ECWatts92. Come say hi. That's about all I got. Other than that, I go to work out, play guitar, and go to bed.
Heck yeah.
Sounds
And then
like good life.
I'm frozen here, but you can still hear me. So hello, everybody. You can find me on Twitter at FFMikeCash. You can find my writing over at Last Word on Sports. Dropping a Jaden Daniels prospect preview tomorrow. Written content, did a video one already, so you can find that on our YouTube page. That is Fantasy Football RPG. Just look for the dragons and the elves and the, druids and nonsense, and you'll find us. But otherwise, I think that covers everything. Thanks so much for having us on. Chris, we love you. Rhett,
yeah, thank you, man. This is awesome. Great to meet you guys.
But you guys got a great group, and tell Preston we say what's up next time you see him.
Will do. Mike Haas, floor's yours, man.
Yeah, no, I'm right here learning. I said I'm going to learn a lot. Do a few different things here and just take my time and learn, do some writing and some of the IDP. I'm also in a few IDP leagues and enjoy those and have just get that and just learn it. But I think it's great. You guys are a great group of guys to learn from, it appears.
Yeah, it appears so. We got a college fantasy football podcast that we're working on. Myself and Mike Haas, the 1 Foot Down podcast. So that's in the works. Look out for that. Make sure that you play college fantasy football. It takes your fantasy experience to the next level. Of course, Rhett, Drew, any last words?
Just happy to be here. Just living the dream, baby.
Just living the dream.
Who's got it better than us, baby?
No,
Let's go blue.
buddy.
got it.
I
You got
love it. Congrats to the Michigan Wolverines. For Drew Scott, for Rhett Manuel, I'm Chris Battistel. Toodles.